It's time for another episode of The Oil Stream with Dustin Nielsen and Tom Gazzola, presented by Popeye's Louisiana Kitchen.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to The Oil Stream. Tom Gazzola with you. Matthew Iwanyk will be filling that empty chair over there back at the EST studios, as it is a skeleton crew to go into the weekend. How are you, nasties? If you're joining us, get in on the conversation on this edition of The Oil Stream. Hit us up via the inbox, 780-218-9999, or you can get at us in the nasty chat. I see somebody chiming in already. T. Wilson getting in there early. VR Montenegro chiming in. There's Matthew in his sling, putting on the glasses. Hello, Matty.
Yeah, people, hey, Tommy. People don't really, again, it's bye week of EST, so we have no one else here. I'm at the Popeye's Louisiana Kitchen studio. You're at the Popeye's Louisiana Kitchen downtown satellite studio, which is just your place. But so the music had to be faded down, and so I have to go do that to come here. So that's why there's just an empty chair for me to fade it down, then walk over, and thankfully you're here to get this all going properly. But yes, how are you today? How are you?
I'm good, man. This has been an interesting week. Like, Cass texted me while we were doing the Nielsen show, and he's fighting it, man. I don't know if he's
still battling it?
It's pretty bad. So
no way.
I said rest up. Maybe he's good to go for the Oil Stream pregame show tomorrow at 6:30. Claire Hanna will be joining us from TSN, who does Ottawa Sens broadcasts. And that is on tap for sure. And then we're working on Hello Hockey as well. But you're right, Matt. Like, it's been the bye week. I like how Gadra called it that. I was thinking about it on my drive home from the studios. I was like, yeah, it really is. And kudos to Joaquin Gage as well as Jay Milne, our EST glue guy, for filling in. Both guys did a great job. But I think both of them are getting comfortable. They both said to us, too, that they're like, hey, you know what? I want to take a crack at the morning show. And I was like, hallelujah, because at our old shop, and I explained it. It was when Dusty couldn't go or someone was away, I had to do it because you had your show. Yeah. Dave that had his show. Tide had his show. Gregor had his own show. Like, there wasn't many options, so I would step in, and there would be a post-game show from a late night game the night before, and I'd still be there in the morning. And now we have some other options, and it's kind of nice that the boys stepped up and they're like, you know what? That looks like a fun show to do, which it is, because not a lot of places that you work at let you drink at 8:30 in the morning on a Friday.
Yeah, Jay got the lucky shift over Gager this week because he got the Sophie's Beer of the Week as opposed to not having it earlier. But also, if Gager wanted to go in our fridge and crack a beer at any point, he was more than welcome to. And he did that yesterday while him and I, after the shows, were watching the end of that U.S.-Finland game. So
he knows where the beers are.
He's organized it before.
He's done a great job.
Yes, so he just didn't get. He gets the Sobeys Beer of the Week later, and Jay got to try it today. How was the beer today?
Really good. Village Brewery and from Calgary, and it's the Blacksmith Tall Boys that are on for $10.99 this week. Ooh. So that's it's a great deal.
$10.99.
Yeah, and now what did Scott describe them as? Because they are kind of an IPA, but like not a full on, or they're more of a stout, I think. But they're really good, like crisp, and they're on for $10.99, which is a hell of a deal. And then also, Old Redbeard said that the third batch of 6 o'clocker lager should be ready to go by the 14th or 15th of this month. And he said that they were running really low on the second batch. I think he said Nottingham had some left. And I can't remember the other spot that had it, but it was already like pretty close to being done. And they did a good run on this second batch, but it didn't last very long. So that's the update. And Village Brewery, Blacksmith, $10.99. Great deal. Usually it's what, $13, $14.99?
Yeah, we were $13.99, I think it was, for the for the 6 o'clock lager. I don't think it was $14.99. I think it was $13.99. So,
but now the regular price is $14.99.
Yes, yeah. Well, for us, but you don't generally get that for $10.99. So that's a wicked deal for a tall boy. Yep. It is an absolute wicked deal. Your thoughts always welcome. 780-218-9999. Paris Jewelers inbox. You can jump in the nasty chat just quickly. Some Penner's Pancakes. Glue Guy was very good in Eric's chair. Excellent job with some clapping emojis. T. Wilson saying, indeed, Penner, he sure was. VR Montenegro asking earlier if I was invisible. Dope, he added. And Michelle R. saying, hello, Nasties and T. Biscuit. Hey there, Maddie. How's the arm? The arm is good. The arm is, it's progressing. So we're getting there. We're getting there day by day. Eventually, this will be off, and I'll be back to normal. This is the Oil Stream, like I said, live from the Popeyes Louisiana Kitchen studio. Let's get into some Oiler discussion, and let's start with the skills competition that took place yesterday. I'm not going to lie, I didn't even know it was a skills competition yesterday until like 5:30, I think Oilers tweeted that you could watch it on Oilers Plus. And it's like, oh, there's a skills competition tonight. How closely were you following it along, Tommy?
Zero.
Yeah.
Like absolutely not at all. And then right before I went to bed, I was like, oh yeah, skills competition, which is, I want to say this, like it is an awesome event. I had the good fortune of hosting it a few times alongside Gene Principe, and I had so much fun. It is for the kids. Yes. I know that there are super fans and diehards that also love it. It is a fantastic event. They really do get it right. The players are into it. They make it fun. The rough relay is hilarious. And that was the thing that stood out to me, was that Hugo Cece had a great event winning it. And then the other thing I really liked is how they incorporated Fernando, JDD, and Ben Scrivens into it. And the fact that Ben was wearing like an Andy Moog style setup and ditched his, he could have wore his old Oiler pads if he wanted to, or like JDD had a fresh set of orange gear that he wears for the alumni, and he had his Oilers mask. But Ben Scrivens went with like the Cooper deerskin brown 80s style pads. And I think his Hespler stick was amazing too. And then the Cooper helmet with the birdcage for the mask was fantastic. I like that they do that, Maddie. Like they get it. They've really kind of molded this to make it very family kid friendly. And I think that's the best part of what comes out of it. And the prices to get in the door are much, much better than paying for a Tuesday night in February against Minnesota.
Yeah. I was going to say, like, I don't know what the prices were this year. I know in the past, though, they've been very cheap. Yeah. And we could rip on the Oilers for a lot of their pricing for regular season concession. There's a lot we can rip them for on that. But this is a night where they don't do that necessarily. I don't know. Concession prices, I'm assuming, are still the exact same. Probably. But price to get in is cheaper. And Rogers Place, it's not easy to get in Rogers Place. Like Oil Kings, you could go there for cheap value. But if you want to go watch the Oilers, if you're a family of four, if you have one kid, you want to go watch the Oilers at Rogers, it's hard to do unless you want to shell out a lot of cash. And that's what the skills competition is for, is those people that also just can't get to games, that don't have the fortune. Not everyone is fortunate enough to actually get tickets to go to Edmonton Oilers hockey games. This is a chance where they can go watch the Edmonton Oilers in one way. And I will always love that the skills, like, do I care about the skills competition? No. Do I care about, who's the fastest skater, all that? Not really. No. But it is a great event that should happen every year, because those people that get the chance to see Connor McDavid or Leon Draisaitl up close and personal for this one time of the year, they get that chance. And it's awesome that happens. So I'm glad that, I was busy last night looking outside, to the parking lot and stuff. People were coming downtown for it. So it's good that happened. And, it seems like people also really just love the dog race. It seems like every year everyone just focuses on the dog race.
And that's something that Jay and I kind of talked about on the Nielsen show this morning. We got into a whole love fest for dogs. I love dogs. Yeah. I think most people love dogs. They're not for everybody. Some people are allergic to them, but it turned into this like spin-off where the Nasty Chat was getting into it. And the fact that they incorporate the dogs, if you have a dog, they're part of the family. They burrow into your heart. And this is a fun one. They made a nice trophy that Cody Cece's dog got with a nice bone on it. I love the name, the Rough Relay. And that's cool, because all the kids that were there were probably absolutely head over heels enamored with the dogs.
Oh, yeah.
All right. And then on top of that, I would say 80% of the adults that have a heart loved the dog relay. And then there were some that were probably like, this is stupid. And you know what? That's okay, because that event is not for you. Now, if you enjoyed the hardest shot and you go, oh boy, Cody Ceci, 102 miles an hour, where is that in a game? Well, it doesn't really exist, because this is not a game situation. It just tells you that the guy can pound the pill. And to expect what you saw at the skills competition to translate over into an actual game would be ridiculous. But the dog relay is hilarious. I absolutely love it. And the fact that of the matter is, it's for the kids and the families to have a good time. And that is what it's all about.
Is there one skills competition event you love more than any others, or that you focus on a little more? I love knowing who fastest skater is cool, accuracy is cool. I love always knowing has the hardest shot. Maybe that comes from back in the growing up. Al McInnes, watching him at the All-Star games, or Shea Weber. I love seeing the hardest shot. Is there one for you?
Hardest shot is cool. It honestly is. And I remember like Zdeno Chara at the All-Star game in Ottawa. I think he hit 108 miles per hour. Like, the guy's bending rebar, basically. He's 7 feet on skates. You're right. Shea Weber was right there with him. Like, there was an era where these guys, plus the technology in the sticks, were getting up to close to 110 miles an hour, which is insane. It is absolutely insane. And it's a testament to A, the technology, and B, the strength, skill, and ability of these phenomenal athletes. So yeah, I do geek out on the hardest shot, and it is cool to see that Cody Ceci has a phenomenal, great, heavy shot. Is he the type of guy that can get it out there in a game? Not very often. And, you know, in the back of your mind, you see it in a skills competition, you go, you know, Cody Ceci actually has a pretty heavy shot. And it's funny because Gager, too, yesterday on Two Guys and a Goalie, it was just a guy and a goalie and him and I, but I said to him, like, is there a difference? Can you please articulate the difference between a heavy shot and a hard shot? And he's like, there's a sound to it. And then he's like, I could tell when it comes off a guy's stick if it's going to be a heavy shot or if it's just a hard shot. And he goes, Evan Bouchard has a heavy shot. And he's like, he compared it to Roger Clemens when Roger Clemens was at his peak in the MLB. It's like, it was described as a pitch that when it got halfway to the plate, it just exploded and got faster and accelerated towards the catcher's mitt, where, you know, guys would see it out of his hand okay, and they knew it was a fastball. They could, you know, guys could read the seams in a split second, which is absolutely insane in itself. But then it exploded towards the plate. And he says there are guys in the National Hockey League that he played against that exist today, and the puck just accelerates even faster halfway through its traverse to the net. And so he said that Evan Bouchard has one of those shots. He said Matt Benning had a shot like that. Maybe Cody Ceci has a shot like that. But then, Matty, the one I actually always appreciate, and this is me being a hockey nerd, I always like accuracy shooting.
Yeah.
You know, to me, it's a skill that does translate into actual real live action in the National Hockey League. And it gives you an idea of which guys that really quickly can pick up a pass and fire it and can pick corners. Because it's usually the guys that are the snipers that are the best at that. And two, you also get a few guys here and there that maybe don't work themselves into a position in the slot to get that opportunity to score. But when they do, they seem to have a knack for it. They can excel in the skills or this accuracy shooting competition as well. So, you know, maybe you get a checker that doesn't really provide a lot of offense, and he can fire the puck off the blade of his stick really quickly, picking up a pass. And you're like, geez, that guy's actually pretty skilled, and it gives you a new appreciation for it. So that's my favorite, is the accuracy shooting as a total hockey nerd. And I always loved in practice accuracy shooting. I think I got to do it a couple of times at a couple of skills competitions growing up playing. I loved it.
It's one, like when somebody goes 4 for 4, it's pretty sweet. Just quick, like, get that pass. And I love, like, especially when they don't hold this puck along. Some guys hold the puck a little long to just really get it off. And it's just like, I like the guys that, like, get the puck, whip it right away, and go boom, 4 for 4, and like, damn, that's unbelievable. And that was always fun. Man. That's absolutely, like, that does scream skill competition. Like, that's why you watch it. And to the hardest shot, though, also, when I watch that, it gives me the appreciation to just defenders. More than the goalies sitting there going, you're willing to stand in front of that shot to try to stop it from going into your net. That is just insane. And that's where, like, we know moving forward, like, we'd watch Shea Weber or Zdeno Chara go to the point, and you just think, like, man, those guys that are going to try to get in front of this, if you move, I totally get it. If you try to get out of the way of that, I totally understand, because we saw how fast those go. So that always was the best part of All-Star games, I felt, back at the NHL All-Star games. I think someone's knocking at the door.
You want to go get that?
I'll quickly go get that. But my favorite part was the skills competition. It was just straight up, because that was real. An All-Star game, that's not hockey. That's just generally not hockey. I'll be right back.
All right, all good. Iwanyk taking care of business. He's the only guy back at the EST studios. Yes, people were wondering what was going on with the hangout. We canceled it for today because it has been skeleton staff for the past week. Lieutenant Eric healing up. He's been sick as well. Dusty, of course, recuperating, getting some rest in as he returned from Davos. And then Matty Cassian has been under the weather. So that's why the programming it's been pretty much back to normal, except for today. And a huge shout out to Huss over in Winnipeg at Winnipeg Sports Talk for getting us through on the lock shop. Yes. I think Patty Gregoire was there.
No, Jake Bolenmoss.
Oh, it was okay.
Yeah,
okay. It
was JBM was doing it. P. Greggy's out in, I think, Dominican Republic. Is a little break, and I think he just got engaged and stuff.
Patty did? Oh,
yeah, I think so. I think that's what I heard. So, love the boys at CoolBet. Great sponsors of Edmonton Sports Talk. I'm sporting their hat right now. You're sporting that beautiful shirt right now. If you're looking for any sorts of bets, it's wrinkled.
My bad.
We didn't have to point that out. I don't think anyone would have noticed.
I'm a details guy.
Yeah, but you don't point it out then. You could worry about it. You could feel shame, but you don't be like, "Hey, everyone, look at this shirt. It's all wrinkled."
There, I'll go like this.
There you go.
There, it's gone.
There will be a EST exclusive, I believe. I think Dusty will have one for tomorrow's game with the Oilers and the Sens. Gets boosted. That's exclusively only CoolBet, coolbet.com. We just had Dusty got some. I don't know. There was a drop off of 6 o'clock or loggers for Dusty, so. We just got another flat.
Did we really? Was that Redbeard who dropped it
No,
off?
some guy had a sign for it, and he was like, "Yeah, this is where the magic happens." And he's like, "This is for Dusty." And I was like, "Okay." And now there's a flat of 6 o'clock or loggers we just got. So that's what was at the door.
You know what, Maddie? Like I said it on the Nielsen show today when we had Scott in. People have been texting me saying, like, "Can you hook up some 6 o'clock or logger?" And I'm like, "No, nope. I can barely get it.
Nope,
I can't find it either." So that's how popular. Like, thank you to everyone, and it is damn good beer.
It's great beer. It is absolutely great beer. Let's talk a little Edmonton Oilers. Actually, let's stick with the All-Star here. Actually, sure. Connor McDavid, he is the All-Star representative for the Edmonton Oilers. What did you make of what we've seen from the All-Star announcements? One player from each team yesterday being announced.
Yeah. I mean, there was a few interesting picks, and Tom Wilson being one of them out of Washington. Like, I know Alex Ovechkin is not having an Alex Ovechkin type season, and his goal scoring has been slower than usual, and it's even made people ponder if he's actually going to catch Gretzky. I still think he probably will. I think he's 64 goals back when I checked the other day. But, like,
I hope he doesn't. Not going to
lie. That's okay. And that's
I want it to be with Gretzky. I want it to stay with Gretzky, so I hope he doesn't do it.
That's okay. Yeah. But, like, it creates excellent debate. It helps us reminisce about different times and eras, different styles, and that's the beauty of the game and how long it's lasted, and a testament to how much passion there is for it and the strong viewpoints on it. But I think it would have just, unless Alex Ovechkin went to the league and said, "Don't put me on there unless I get voted in by the fans," because they announced 32 of 44, and the last 12 players are going to be voted in by the fans. So Ovechkin might just be voted in. But that was one where I'm like, I would have assumed he would have been one of the picks right off the bat. Cam Talbot was an interesting one, but he is having a very good year. Outstanding for the Kings, especially on the road. Great guy, too. Talb's classy individual. And so that I thought that was like an interesting pick. And then a couple more that I thought to myself, like, yeah, I guess so. Like, if you're looking at Buffalo, you're like, what's going on there? You would think maybe it should be Tage Thompson. Again, he could get voted in. Rasmus Dahlin goes in there. Excellent defenseman. Like, pick your poison from Columbus, because that's just been a crap season for a team and an organization that's been stuck in the muck. So they send Boone Jenner out there. Good for Connor Bedard. And then I think for the most part, like Robert Thomas for St. Louis, you're like, okay, I guess so. But for the most part, these are surefire picks outside of a couple. And don't get me wrong, I think some guys that maybe got quote unquote snubbed in this initial 32 probably get voted in, unless they tell the league, I'm good, no thanks.
Here's my issue. I don't care for having a representative from every single team. This isn't the participation game. It's the all-star game. Let's get the 44 best players of the first half of this NHL season into these games. We don't need someone from the Columbus Blue Jackets this year. We don't need someone from the San Jose Sharks this year. Unless you have like an unreal season, those are the only players that should be going. That's my issue with the NHL All-Star game is we should be looking at the 44 best, so the 22 best Eastern Conference players, the 22 best Western Conference players from this year. The only leeway I will go with it is if you want to go with stars who maybe aren't having the greatest seasons like they historically have, and you want to get them, like you mentioned, Ovi, for instance.
Yep.
I'm cool with that because people want to watch stars. So either bring the best players or stars to this event. The only team that should have a guaranteed player or players in this should be the host city. The Toronto Maple Leafs this year, since they're hosting, they're the only ones that should have multiple guaranteed spots because that's the home crowd for this game. And when it was in Florida, what was it, a couple years ago or whatever it was, they should have had a couple. You know, when it one day comes to Edmonton, the Oilers should have a couple. If Columbus was hosting it this year, then they should have a couple or whatever it is. But that's it. Outside of that, I'm sorry. Some of these players, they don't need to be there. And I know you make a good point that those other All-Stars, they'll get there. Yep. But they should have been named in this first part. They should have been named as the first 32 or whatever the number was. And then we could have a fan vote kind of for the rest of it. But I'm sorry. Like, I don't like this idea that every team has to be represented because really you're telling me Columbus is now going to watch just because Boone Jenner's there? The Columbus fan base is going to be like, now I'm going to watch the All-Star game because we have the one player. Of course they're not. So that's the one issue I have is if you want an All-Star game, give me the true All-Stars of this year, and the only leeway I have is giving me stars that maybe are later in their career that, you know, we just want to see there and celebrate and all of that. It's like the year Kobe went, I think it was in Toronto, was his last All-Star game. It was all about Kobe that year type thing. Like, I'm okay with that because who knows how much longer some of those guys might have. Let's celebrate them. Right. But I just hate that we have to have a representative from all 32 teams because it's just, I'm sorry, that's not fully an All-Star game. Like, William Nylander could have been named yesterday. Zach Hyman could have been named yesterday. And yeah, like, they will, but it's like now it's a question mark of, well, will they? Like, I don't care if the Edmonton Oilers get 4 players there because they have 4 of the best players. Like, that doesn't matter to me. If some teams aren't represented, I'm cool with that. It's the same in the Decade of Darkness. Like, Taylor Hall did go, but for the most part, if the Oilers didn't have someone, I would have understood that because the Oilers were garbage. So that's the one issue I have with the All-Star game is that it's not.
Here's a great example, Matty. The third leading scorer, tied for third in league scoring, Artemi Panarin.
Yeah.
Not on the initial 32.
Exactly.
JT Miller, he's right up there as well. Quinn Hughes is having a phenomenal year too, by the way. So I understand that. But like JT Miller is right up there. He had a 99-point season. I'd make an argument for him saying, I think he could be there. But I'm with you. You need the best players to represent.
And again, unless also some of them don't want to.
Which happens,
and they have to take the 1-game suspension or whatever it is for that unless they're truly injured. For the Oilers, who else do you think might be joining Connor?
I think Leon Draisaitl has a good chance. I really do. I mean, he's a perennial All-Star, perennial 50-goal scorer, Hart Trophy winner, Art Ross winner. I know it happened in the shortened season, but the guy and his game is getting better. His 5-on-5 plays picking up. Yes, he gets a ton of power play points. There's a true bona fide All-Star. And then you mentioned Zach Hyman. Matty, the guy's on pace for a 50-goal season. Like,
here's a question.
People are talking. Are you going to bring up the? I think I know where you're going.
No, I was gonna. Well, I don't know. I was gonna say, like, would have you been upset if yesterday he was the announcement instead of Connor McDavid?
No, I think it's ridiculous, but I'd be like, he's having an all-star season, he's leading the team in goals, and Connor McDavid will probably get voted in. But
well, I also would look at Connor's been there before. I would have been okay with having Hyman just named because of the season he's had. That's where I was gonna say, like, would.
But the way you and I would rationalize it, others might not.
Yeah.
Others would go, that's bull crap. This is stupid. How can you not have McDavid? He's the best player in the world. Correct. If that were to have happened, you're right. Like, how could you have named Hyman and not McDavid? And then I'm sure McDavid would get voted in. But
well, it doesn't have to be necessarily
caliber season.
It doesn't have to be voted in. The NHL could say he was voted in.
Yeah.
We never actually see the numbers. They could rig that however they want.
Yes, they can. It is true. They can manipulate it whatever way they so choose, and it's cute that they involve the fans. And yes, some fans and some guys like a John Scott get in, which is a great story.
And it proves that the NHL doesn't rig it. I will just say that.
Well, I mean, yeah. Do you remember Rory? Was it Rory Fitzpatrick from the Canucks? Not Rory.
I forget. Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, was it Rory Fitzpatrick? Remember they did the write-in vote,
yes,
and they did get enough. I think they had enough, but somehow the league said no. Sorry, he's not an all-star. He was a tweener having a decent year, and
trying to see if I can find it.
Yeah,
I feel like it was Rory Fitzpatrick.
Yeah.
The headline in 2006. The headline I have is Canuck defenseman Rory Fitzpatrick uncomfortable by All-Star voting limelight. And then the NHL's All-Star voting disaster slate investigation.
He was like just an honest player that was kind of a classic tweener and played a season or two with the Canucks full time, and they voted him in. It was like a write-in vote, and I would have been uncomfortable, but I would have gone. And that's why the John Scott story, I was at that one in Nashville.
Yeah.
And to have him be the MVP, it was the first year, I think, of the 3-on-3 or 4-on-4 format where they had, they changed the format. It was a great storyline. Like, should he have been the MVP? No. But just with everything that happened, it ended up being phenomenal, and people bought in. It was a neat story, and it was a way to circumvent the All-Star game, and it was like a successful bid a la Rory Fitzpatrick in 2006.
It was one of those where it brought good attention to the NHL beyond the hockey world, because like, oh, look at this story, and it became something that just like ESPN would kind of talk about. That it worked out for the NHL in that sense. For Oiler fans, there's going to be the campaigns to get guys in, and there's going to be those social media campaigns. In your eyes, who should be the number one guy that Oilers should campaign for to get to the All-Star game?
Zach Hyman is at the top of the list, and then I put Evan Bouchard there. Horrible start to the season for Evan Bouchard, but what a tremendous last 20-some-odd games where it's been night and day. So I put Hyman ahead of Bouchard, but the offensive capabilities of Evan Bouchard, the way he's cleaned things up defensively, the way Matthias Ekholm getting healthy has helped him out like he did during the stretch drive and playoffs last year has been excellent. I mean, Evan Bouchard today compared to Evan Bouchard on October 19th is night and day. So much better than what we saw in the early parts of the season. But to me, it's Hyman. You got a guy on pace for 50-some odd goals and a guy that's leading your team in scoring. On the goal side, obviously, McDavid is just absolutely surging towards the top spot in the league. I think he probably will catch Kucherov. I would say Zach Hyman, one, and then if you had to put in a second vote, it would be for Evan Bouchard. That's just my opinion, though.
Hyman deserves to be there. It's just that simple. Yeah. And it also is a nice story going back to Toronto for him, and he's going there, and that would be like, if you're on pace for a 50-goal season, that's kind of an all-star. It's wild how when you think about how the Oilers season began to now where they are, and you could sit there and you could make the case for actually quite a few all-stars. Leon Draisaitl is still one of the best players in the game. Not being talked about for that. And what do you think of Stuart Skinner? Has his play through this little bit earned him an all-star potential nod?
Mm, I want to say yes for his sake, but he got to do it last year, and he was a replacement, and that was good for him. He did earn the Calder nomination and finalist, which is a feather in his cap, but probably not Stuart Skinner. But Matty, I think, for him, what he's doing in the real games that matter is the most important part, and he's building up a pretty strong season. The noise around the goaltending is quieted off, which is good. Do I think that changes the need to help Stuart Skinner at some point by trying to find a goalie that could bolster the tandem? No, I think they still probably would like to do that. The urgency has died off, but the need is still there. But Skinner, no. Ultimately, the answer is no. Is he a all-star caliber goaltender, or could he be again next year? Yes, 100%. Like, he is capable of it. Because if you're telling me that Cam Talbot is an all-star this year and Stuart Skinner can't be an all-star caliber goaltender again next year or even late in the season, I would laugh at you and say that's a crock of you-know-what.
Well, and this winning that the Oilers have had here, if Skinner had played that way the entire season, there probably is an argument that he's an all-star at that point.
Okay, yeah, that's
like
listen,
if he
true,
can, like he has it in him. If he just has to play that way through an entire, well, I guess first half of the season to be an all-star.
Yeah, he wasn't his best. He was not as good as he is right now at the start of the season. But the team defense was absolutely atrocious. And I read an article.
100%.
I'm not going to say from where, but I read an article yesterday where one of the lines at the end, it was a throwaway line, said that
Bleacher Report
Oilers goaltending. Well, there you go. It said that it was the Oilers goaltending that let them down in the first half or for the first part of the season. And I was just like, boy, really weren't watching Oiler games, were you?
I'll say this. If you're going to Bleacher Report for your NHL info, you're going to the wrong spot as your main source for NHL info. I don't think Bleacher Report to me is going to be the top place to grab my hockey information. Yeah. I'll just say that.
Anyway,
I don't know.
The goaltending wasn't great anyway. It wasn't great,
but that hurts your all-star bid though. Is that when you don't have the numbers like you're pulling right now? Because a lot, some of this, especially when it comes to goaltending, you look at the numbers. If Cam Talbot's numbers were, was if he was a .905 goal, even though the LA Kings were winning, if they were still winning hockey games, he wouldn't be going. It's the fact that his numbers look really good, and that's where I'll go to. Yes, it was the team around him that wasn't. It was a lot of issues why the Oilers were bad to start this year. You could blame almost everybody, but that's when it comes to Stuart Skinner's numbers, they weren't there, and that's why he won't be an all-star. This is the Oil Stream. Iwanyk, Tom. Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to make one last point. There was a certain portion of the early season where we literally, I think we did it on the Hangout and on the Oil Stream, on the Nielsen show, pre and post game, where we did a checklist of like every faction of the Oilers organization from top to bottom. Front office, we're like fail. Goaltending, fail. Defense, fail. Special teams, fail.
Scoring,
power
fail.
Play. For offense, fail. 5-on-5, fail. Like, everything was not working, was a failure. And that's what led to 2-9-1. That's all I wanted to say. And I remember that being a fun little exercise that we got to partake in a small stretch of time earlier in the season. My bad.
No, thank you. This is the Oil Stream. Iwanyk, Tom Gazzola with you here. Portions of this hour brought to you by One Putt Virtual Golf. Today is the deadline to register for their Winter League. $350 gets you 8 rounds of golf that you can play based around your schedule. While today's the end of registration, the tournament or the league will go until February 18th. They use a point system, earn points weekly based on how you play after handicapped rounds. There's also weekly prizes, which include closest to the pin, longest drive, cash prizes also for hole-in-one and albatross, only in league play. oneputt.ca/league for more information and to register, and that's one with the digit 1, oneputt.ca. Did you at all see what was going on with, was it Jerry or whatever for Barstool these last couple days with his hole-in-one? They have the Barstool has a Chicago studio now, and they have a golf sim. And this guy wasn't going to leave until he got a hole-in-one. It took him like 33 hours or something like that. Over 2,500 shots he took. And he finally got the hole-in-one at like 2,600 something. And it was this big deal. Even Tom Brady was tweeting about it. Like, just
Really?
like he tweeted a picture, Tom Brady, of him down in the Super Bowl against the Falcons, and goes, it's light always comes after dark, or something like that. And it swept the golf world yesterday that even golfers were tweeting about it and stuff. And
wow,
we should maybe try that. How many shots do you think you could take? It would take you to get a hole in one? If
probably a lot.
Same hole, you just got to keep doing it over and over and over.
I would hope it would be less than 2,600, and that I would at some point figure out my range and my touch, that I could get one that might hopefully bounce it. Maybe half of that. That would be my best guess, or my hope. But that's a lot of swings. You want to talk about a torn labrum? That guy might need a couple of shoulder surgeries, Matty. He might be in double slings.
I think he had a 7-hour nap in there, and that was about it. Like, he slept for about but it was just, he wasn't going to leave until he got his hole in one. So maybe we've got to go to one putt one day and give that a try. Tommy, the rumors this week are circulating about the Edmonton Oilers and moves and what they could do to improve this team based on the way Skinner and Pickard have been playing. Goaltending's now not necessarily a top priority. It's still obviously going to be a priority for Ken Holland to keep an eye on, but it's maybe moved down a little bit. Some people would think maybe defense is a spot to go, but it seems like a forward is being thrown out there. Jake Gensel and the Oilers. What are you hearing when it comes to that? I know you talked a little bit about on two guys yesterday, but for the Oil Stream crowd, what are you hearing on the Oilers and Jake Gensel?
Yeah, they haven't made any inquiries to Pittsburgh about him, but would they be interested? Probably. Why wouldn't you be? But would Pittsburgh be willing to get rid of him? Depends. How does their season go? Are they going to be in playoff contention? Are they going to pick it up? Do they go on a heater here? He's probably a guy that they want to keep around. But I know there was a lot of discussion, a lot of texts that came in. And, in my conversations with some people, I was told that they haven't inquired about him. But the Oilers, I do know, will be having their meetings coming up, getting ready for their plan of attack going into the deadline. What areas of need take the top billing? And so I think that when you look at the team right now, like I said, with the goaltending, is the urgency where it was a month and a half ago to go and get a guy? Not necessarily. Is the need still there? Yeah, probably. You'd probably also want to add a defenseman at some point, a depth guy. But I think that, the priority right now would probably, if you're the Oilers, be at getting a third line center. And that depends, too, on what Ryan McLeod does in the next couple of weeks. Does he stay on the left side? Can he be like Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, adaptable and play the wing for a sustained amount of time? Or do they look at the situation and go, you know what, we need to get Evander Kane back up there when he's healthy, because he hasn't been the last couple of weeks, and that has hampered his production and his ability to be as effective of an impact player as he has been throughout the course of his career. So, it's kind of one of those wait and see approaches from what I understand and what I've been told. And then when it bring it all back to Gensel, it's like, how realistic is it? Not very, considering the cap crunch for the Oilers. But would they look at him if he were to be made available? Yeah, for sure. But no inquiries have been made in that regard. And then, I think Tide wrote about the goaltending. Tide thinks that they're going to get a goalie before Valentine's Day, I think it was, in his Athletic article. Maybe. But you look at the market right now, it's not that appetizing, to be honest with you. Do I think that they need to upgrade their goaltending tandem? Yeah, I do. Do I have 100% faith in Calvin Pickard to be the guy that could spell off Stuart Skinner, say they get into the stretch drive in postseason? Not really. But he has done a very good job to this point in being a serviceable guy that has stepped in when Jack Campbell faltered yet again. And I think that Pickard's been a good, solid option. But I don't think he is a guy that would instill a ton of confidence when things get a little bit dicier and the pressure cooker ramps up a little bit more. So, yeah, I think Matty, ultimately, they'll probably want to add one guy at each position. Will they be able to do that? I don't know. And I think, right now, probably bolstering the depth at forward would be important. But you look at the defense, they've only got 6 roster defensemen on the roster itself. that's tricky. And you probably want to get a veteran guy in there for cheap at some point.
We're a little over 2 months away from the deadline. It is March 8th, which is a Friday. If I guessing, I think that's probably 8 weeks, dead on 8 weeks away from the trade deadline there. You said when you're talking about Calvin Pickard, don't necessarily trust him maybe to spell off Skinner in the stretch and postseason. When you say and postseason, what do you mean by, is that like, do you think that the Oilers need to have a guy as a backup that will have to play and Skinner won't play every game of a series? Or is that just a situation of only if Skinner is playing poor, you need a guy to go to? What do you mean by not trusting Pickard in a postseason?
Ideally, Stuart Skinner learns from last year, adapts and improves. And that's kind of that's what he's talked about. And for the most part, I think he's practiced what he's preached. Has he faltered and been perfect? Absolutely not. I think it was D White in the nasty chat said he's got a sub 900. Yeah, absolutely. I understand that. But
before you continue, I just want to say on that though, like the Oilers were so poor and he was like, his numbers were so poor this year. It takes a lot mathematically to get that number back up.
Correct. And that's a good point. And that's a good aside and a noteworthy one. But I think ideally Stuart Skinner is your go-to guy and you can rely on him, and he doesn't let in the stinker almost on a nightly basis in the postseason like he did, especially in that round to the Golden Knights. There were a couple of nights against the Kings where you think about that game in LA where Campbell had to come in. I didn't think Campbell was great in that game. He made some phenomenal saves. I thought they were desperation save attempts, and he managed to make them, which he does deserve praise for because he got the job done. But I would not have had confidence in Jack Campbell going into Game 6 against the Golden Knights, trying to stave off elimination. That's just me. Others feel differently. So I think having experienced everything that they did last year, the hope is that Stuart Skinner can be your every game starter in the postseason. But if he can't, if there is a bit of 2023 Stuart Skinner from the postseason that creeps in this year, when the Oilers make it to the playoffs, I think they will, you want a guy there that's a little bit better. And by a little bit better, I mean better track record, pedigree, body of work in the National Hockey League, hopefully in the playoffs, than Calvin Pickard, right? Veteran guy. So the ideal scenario is that Stuart Skinner plays every game in the postseason and there's no need to take him out because he plays so well. How likely is that to happen? I don't know, because there's in the back of my mind even, and obviously in the front of mind of a lot of Oilers fans is they need a guy. And I don't disagree with that. So that's what I mean by someone there that if Skinner stumbles, you can go, well, there's this guy. He's a veteran. He has played in the playoffs. Maybe he can get hot for you for a game or two. And I think that's a big deal. So I that's what I mean when I say that.
One thing I will also just throw out there when it comes to Ken Holland making a trade, based on his history with the Edmonton Oilers, a trade doesn't happen until closer to the deadline. He's not. We haven't seen this team go out there and make those trades really prior to the deadline. Even last year with Ekholm, there was a lot of criticism of Ken Holland because people thought he was going to make no trades. And this guy is wasting the trade deadline. And it was, 2 days before, whatever it was, the deadline, he finally brought in Matthias Ekholm and made his move. Yep. But Ken Holland has not been a guy that, so before Valentine's Day, historically, when it comes to the Edmonton Oilers, we haven't seen that from Ken Holland. So my guess is it's somewhere around that week of whatever is leading up to the 8th. I guess March, what would that be, the 4th through the 8th? 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th? Yeah, 4th. Yep. That's probably a time, if I had to put money down, that's when I would bet that Ken Holland goes and makes whatever moves he does for this team going into the playoff stretch. I'm not looking forward to him. I'm not looking at him thinking he's probably going to make a move ahead of time. It's just not what he's done here at Edmonton. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe we'll be surprised. But the history suggests Holland's not a guy that's going to make that move yet.
And what's going on with the team today? And I think we need to just remind ourselves, myself included, and I'm just, what I was thinking, I'm going to say out loud is what this Oilers team is today, how they're performing, what's clicking, and what might be faltering today in a month and a half in 7 weeks, maybe right tight to the deadline, it could be a different story. Like there's still a lot of runway before we get to that point, and things can change still. And injuries happen, knock on wood, but that I need to remind myself too. So today's situation obviously could be different than what we see going into early March.
Portions of this hour brought to you by Boston Pizza. If you're looking for a place to watch tomorrow's game against the Sens and you're not going to Rogers Place, Boston Pizza is going to be the place you want to watch the Oilers. $5 off medium pizzas, $1 off tankards of Canadian Coors Light, and $5.50 shots of Fireball, Jagger, Burt Reynolds, Purple Rain, and Honey Jack. Boston Pizza, the place you want to go to watch the Edmonton Oilers. They do take on the Sens. Oil Stream pregame show tomorrow night, 6:30, right here on EdmontonSportsTalk.com, on TuneIn, or right here on the Edmonton Sports Talk YouTube channel. Tommy will be by. You mentioned Claire Hanna will be by to get the update of the Ottawa Senators. YouTube Trev will be around. When you look at this game, Oilers should have this win. How do you look at this matchup for the Oilers and the Sens tomorrow night?
I look at it the same way that we approached and discussed, and the Oilers ultimately approached and handled the San Jose Sharks and the Anaheim Ducks. All business. Do not give them a hope in hell. It has been misery around the Ottawa Senators of late. They had the front office shuffle. They had a coaching change a couple weeks ago. Everybody that hoped and thought that this team was going to take a step with a pretty exciting nucleus of young players, it has not happened. It has been a crappy season in Ottawa again, which sucks for them, sucks for their fan base. But now they have to start putting the pieces back together, unfortunately. And so this is a scenario where you get a Sens team that is so vulnerable. They lost easily to the Seattle Kraken 4-1 yesterday. They've been traveling. They're on this road trip. And I'll put it to what Jamie McLennan said. Like, it's bad right now around the team. Not a lot's working. And I'm paraphrasing, but this is a scenario where you have to just go in and take the game. Do not give them a sniff. And what I liked about what the Oilers did in San Jose and what they did in Anaheim is they attacked so quickly. They scored the first goal in San Jose, a minute on the dot in. And it didn't take them long to crack Anaheim. This has to be the same approach. And I think, with Ottawa, they do have really, again, those skilled, solid players, really great up-and-comers that I think are going to be excellent National Hockey Leaguers for a long time. Stars of the game. Some of them, like Stützle and Brady Tkachuk, are stars, and Thomas Chabot. Those are stars, but the Sens don't have the goaltending. The Sens don't have the depth. They're a mess right now. They're trying to figure out their new coach. They're trying to figure out what the hell's going on with the front office. You pounce on that. So that's how I think the Oilers should approach this game, much like they did Anaheim, which was very successful in the 7-2 victory, much like they did in that 5-0 win in San Jose last week. Same thing, same approach, just you're on home ice. So don't let that affect you. Don't get worried about putting on a show, because if you take care of business and that red light goes on behind the Sens net multiple times and you're not letting anything in behind your net, it's going to be a show for the fans, and they're going to appreciate the 2 points at the end of the night on a Saturday where they're getting a little bit lubed up, having a good time, and an Oilers win will convince them and satisfy them even more than a scary, nerve-wracking, shootout victory, if you will.
Does this Sens team sort of remind you of the Oilers from a few years ago? A lot of good high-end pieces, but just can't make it work with everything else and no goaltending?
Yeah, like 2012.
Yeah.
Like 2014. It very much like where you thought that the pieces were there, but then there was all the upheaval with the coaching staffs, the multiple coaching staffs that came in with trying to get a new arena.
Even
was
that
already an owner in place. Yeah, like there's just a lot of parallels and similarities to what did we call it? Was it like the rebuild 2.0?
Rebuild 1 was Gagne, Nilsson, Payarvi. Cogliano,
yeah.
Sorry. Then rebuild 2 would have been Hall, Eberle, Payarvi, Yakupov. Omark.
Yeah.
Hope. And all that. And then rebuild 3 was McDavid, Draisaitl. And even then there was a reset in there.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Yeah, so I would say the Oilers are on rebuild 3.5, 3.5.
Gross.
So the Sens are there, rebuild 2.0?
Sure. It reminds me of like 20 12 to 2015 Oilers, where it's like, oh, they're going. Nope. 2 steps back after 1 step forward. That's what they remind me of.
Them, the Sabres, they just can't get it. Even the Sabres were a team that everyone thought, like, it's about time that they take that step forward. And we've been saying that for, 3 years?
Yeah, and they have some wonderful pieces.
Yeah.
Like, I thought that getting Alex Tuch out of Vegas was a nice move. I like him. Obviously, there were more pieces that came along with Tuch over to Buffalo, but Tage Thompson emerging as a superstar in the league, Rasmus Dahlin as a superstar in the league, Owen Power, he's going to be an absolute force in the NHL for a long time. They have, Dylan Cousins even. Like, they have some great pieces. Jeff Skinner is finding his game again. You look at that team, you're like, you know what? On paper, this should be a team that should give you a fight every night. But more and more, just rumblings around the league, people coming in from the Eastern Conference, talking with them. The theme that pops up is they're like, they have all these like really nice players and pieces that should equate to a competitive team. But, we talk about balance, Maddie, and a lot of the conversation and things that I'm being told is like they went so heavy into analytics that's what's guiding them, that they've gone to digital scouting as opposed to having actual eyes in the building, that it might even be to their detriment, that it's just things aren't connecting and it's discombobulated. So it's like, we talk about the best teams. They have a great marriage between the numbers and the eyes. And it seems like, and there's teams that have gone and done the opposite, where they just go old school. And then it sounds like Buffalo's a team that's just gone completely in one direction. Again, this is from discussions with other media members and people, hockey ops staff from different teams, where Buffalo is like all in, doing it this new, too much on the edge of the new way, relying on game tape, broadcasts and stuff like that for scouting, and then the numbers and advanced metrics, that it's almost been a thing that's hindered their progress.
We only have a couple minutes left here in the oil stream. I just want to get into the Paris Jewelers inbox, 780-218-9999. Coach Mike with a question, just going, which team is most vulnerable to dropping out of the top 3 in the Pacific? If you had to look at Canucks, Golden Knights, Kings, which team do you think is most likely to fall out, if one team does fall out, for the Oilers to maybe potentially catch?
Yeah, that's a great question, Coach Mike. I mean, the Golden Knights are having a tough run here. They're 3-7. Looking at the Golden Knights Twitter yesterday, when they dropped that game, people were complaining about the goaltending there. They're complaining about the defense, saying that they're playing on the perimeter. And I was like, man, I've heard those arguments about this Oilers team earlier this year. And I was like, that is not a good place to be in. I watched them in the Winter Classic, and I was like, geez, they don't have any jam. I think it's a midseason lull. They played a ton of hockey. They had a not a grueling run to the cup, but I think they might just be in the doldrums of the season. They've had some goaltending injuries. Aiden Hill's been out. I don't think that the Golden Knights are going to fall out of it. I think maybe LA can be caught if the Oilers are able to win those 3 games remaining against them, or even 2 of 3. Don't leak away any more points like they did in LA the other night. Although that was a good win. It was a really good shootout win. I think it is possible that Edmonton catches LA, but there's always that thought in my mind that the Kings are so stubborn. Todd McClellan's so stubborn, and they're so thorough and sticking with that system that it's going to be tough to catch them. But Edmonton might be able to, depending on how things go in those 3 remaining games against the Kings. So to me, it is LA. I think Vegas recoups and bounces back. I think the Canucks they're in a groove, and unless something so detrimental, injury-wise happens, I think Vancouver's in a good, safe spot. So I think it could be LA. I really do.
Your stubbornness of LA, that comment, it's so true, because the last few years, that was the team we just kept saying they're going to fall out. They're going to fall out. They're going to fall out. They never did.
Yeah.
And they're still sitting right there. But that's where I go, like, this month. Like, you're right about the games against each other, but it's also winning the other games that are like should be points. And that's why this month, I think if the Oilers go and take care of business this month, and we're talking about an 8-2 January or something like that, that's going to go a long way in terms of catching an LA Kings. Whereas if you drop some games here that maybe you shouldn't, if you end up going 6-4 or something like that, those couple of points might be the big difference of why you're not going to be able to go catch those top teams. This month, the Oilers need to take care of business because it's not that hard when you look at it on paper.
Maddie, and you're right. The Golden Knights and the Canucks have played more games than the Oilers. I still think, if there's someone making the argument, I'm not in the nasty chat right now or even on our inbox, but if people are saying, well, the Golden Knights have played 4 more games and they're only 3 points up on LA, I think that I'll give them the benefit of the doubt myself for the championship pedigree, and I think that they clean things up.
That will do it for the Oil Stream. That will do it for another day of, some live programming. Nielsen Show, Lock Shop, and Oil Stream here on Edmonton Sports Talk. The bye week coming to a close here at EST. Tomorrow, Hello Hockey at 10 o'clock. Ewan Belzy. Dave Pagnotta will be on the show as he is every other week. Still finalizing the other details.
Yeah, we're working on one guest, waiting for them to get back to me. But they did say they would hop on. It's a good guest, like a really good one. And they've been on the show before last season. I think people would really like her for sure because she's a big name in the NHL and a good friend. And just waiting for her to get back to me.
10 o'clock tomorrow morning, EdmontonSportsTalk.com on TuneIn. Or on this YouTube channel, the Edmonton Sports Talk YouTube channel. That is Hello Hockey with Gazzola and Sean Bellin in the Oil Stream pregame show. 6:30 tomorrow night as the Oilers take on the Senators. Tommy will have you set up for that matchup. And then Monday, it is the grand return of Dustin Nielsen to the morning show. And I'm hoping, Lieutenant Eric, he's not going through a cast situation and he's going to still be completely out. But at least Dusty will be back and will somewhat be back to normal here at Edmonton Sports Talk as really the holiday season comes to a close and we really get going. We'll have a lot to recap from the weekend. That's coming up on Monday. But thanks for tuning in to Edmonton Sports Talk this past week. We greatly appreciate it. Thanks for tuning into the Oil Stream. I'm Matt Iwanyk. He's Tom Gazzola. And Tommy, I'll let you take us out.
All right. Like, share, subscribe on the march to 7,000 via our EST YouTube channel. Smash that thumbs up button. Everybody have a great weekend. Enjoy yourselves. Be safe out there. Take it a little bit slower on the roads because we are starting to get skiffs of snow.
And it's going to get cold.
It does get a little bit slippery. Yeah, bundle up. But let's have a great weekend. Thanks as always, and we'll talk to you tomorrow.